Welcome everyone to this week's edition of Bowden Hopes. I'm Pastor Jason. Well, before this COVID thing started, we were looking at the book of Philippians in our sermon series. And the book of Philippians is all about joy in everything, every type of circumstance. Now, if you remember, the Apostle Paul was under house arrest at that time. Doesn't that sound familiar to us? Well, we can learn lots of lessons from Philippians. And so what we're going to do is we're going to continue on exactly where we left off last time. Philippians 2 verses 12 to 13. Therefore, my dear friends, as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now much more in my absence, to continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose. Normally, I do a different type of workout than this. At this time of year, I'm usually playing soccer with the kids and running around doing that sort of stuff. But the weather and COVID has sure changed things up. So how am I going to work out? Well, Paul tells us to continue to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. What does that mean? Well, we're going to figure out as we go inside. So why don't you join me inside? Work out your salvation. What is Paul talking about? Is he saying that we need to work for our salvation? Somehow earn it? Well, we must remember that there are three different parts to salvation that the Bible talks about. The first part is salvation proper, coming to faith in Jesus when we first believed. The second is sanctification, becoming more like Jesus in our attitudes, behaviors, and character. And the third is glorification, when salvation is completed, when we are now in heaven. The New Living Translation says it this way: work hard to show the results of your salvation. So obviously, this working out salvation is talking about the second part of salvation, called sanctification. Sanctification involves work from us. We need to work out our salvation. Now, work always involves effort. Sometimes effort can be fun, sometimes it's hard work. Lifting weights is hard work. Building forts is fun work. It's what you want to do. But we are called to continue to work out our salvation, as in we just never arrive at our salvation. We're never perfect. We're never sanctified to be perfect. It's a thing that we need to do daily and weekly and monthly and yearly. We have to work out to be more like Jesus. Becoming more like Jesus involves living righteously. It means doing the right thing while at the same time avoiding sin. You know, COVID-19 has caused an increase in temptations around us. With increased stress levels and aloneness, we're tempted more. It was the same way with Jesus. Jesus was tempted when he was alone and stressed in the wilderness, and he didn't have some of his needs met. You know, right now, our society is seeing an increase in pornography, and marijuana, and alcohol use, and gluttony, and other things. All these things Satan is telling us to give us relief from the stress. But it doesn't work. Maybe you might be feeling like the dieter psalm right now, which says, "My weight is my shepherd. I shall not want low calories. It maketh me to munch on potato chips and bean dip. It leadeth me into 31 flavors. It restoreth my soul food. It leadeth me in the paths of cream puffs and bakeries. Yea, though I waddle through the valley of Weight Watchers, I will fear no skimmed milk. For my appetite is with me. My hostess Twinkies and Ding Dongs, they comfort me. They anoint my body with calories. My scale tippeth over. Surely chubbiness and contentment shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Tim Hortons Donuts forever." Now, if you've read your Bible, you obviously know that that is not part of the Psalms. But it's just a fun way to remind us that temptations are increasing at this time, and that we need to pray what the Lord prayed. Keep us from yielding to temptations. A professor told us in the class that what we should do every morning is wake up and pray to God to help us to avoid temptations, so we could be strong, so we can work out our salvation each and every day as we get up. We are given the responsibility to work out our salvation by doing good works and avoiding sin. We do that because we fear God. What it means to fear God is simply this: to respect Him, to honor Him, to put Him in a place of authority that He deserves, and to follow what He says. You know, God doesn't leave us alone to do this work. He says in verse 13, "For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose." God's the big helper in our lives in order to work out our salvation. God transforms us from the inside out. The verse talks about how God changes our will. Our will includes our desires, our passions, our drive. God gives us the desire to be more like Jesus. You know, God's a big initiator. I look at my life and think that every good thought and every good act I've ever done was first initiated by God. It's as if He had a seed and He went and He put it inside of me and started the growth of working out my salvation, the good works that He calls me to do, and the avoidance of sin. And so we partner with God in this work of sanctification. We can't do it alone. You ever tried that? I have, and fell flat on my face many times, trying to make myself holy. It doesn't work. What I must do is rely on God each and every day. And the results is when we work out our salvation with God, God's good purpose in your life and in those around, God's purpose is done and life is blessed because of it. That wraps up another edition of Bowden Hopes. Our big takeaway this week is this: continue to work out to be more like Jesus. COVID-19 is going to bring a lot more temptations to our lives, so we need to be vigilant in what we do, to be holy, to be like Jesus. So, till next time, like us on Facebook, and remember, Bowden has hope because we have Jesus.